Hey guys, I want to thank you for being a part of my first film, my first review of 100 Essential Movies. We started off with, up in the top corner, Intolerance from 1916. I was not ready for this movie, and let me tell you why. The 1916 G.W. The 1916 G.W. Griffith movie Intolerance was originally 3.5 hours long, and it was a silent film. There are currently out now, as far as I can tell, 4 different versions. The one that I watched was the official restoration version. An interesting fact I found out about this, at the time, the budget was $2.5 million. Which, when you think about it, you go, oh, that's not bad. We have movies way higher than that. When you find out what that is in today's money, it's $62,372,330.10. That is a huge budget for a movie. So the way I'm going to break this down for you guys is to tell you a bit about the film itself before I get to my review part of it. There are 4 stories. One of them is a modern day crime and redemption story, and by modern day, I mean 1916. There is a story about Jesus and his mission and his death. There's a French story that goes over the St. Bartholomew Massacre from 1572. And the last story, or kind of last story, is the fall of the Babylonian Empire in 539 BC. And the reason why I said kind of the last story is these are kind of mingled together throughout the film. So you'll see a little bit from one story, one time frame, and jump to another. Then you'll jump back to another one, which was a little jarring to watch. But I'll get into that more in a minute. This film had mixed reviews when it first came out, so I'm curious to see where we all fall in whether or not we liked it or not. Some interesting facts about this is in 1989, this was the first film to be selected to be preserved by the United States Film Registry, which was the version that I watched. It was only, I think, like 2 hours and 49 minutes versus 3.5 hours. Okay, so I had mentioned before that the movie jumps back and forth between 4 different timelines, 4 different stories. About a half hour into the movie, I was really questioning the method of how they shot it and how they told the story. It was a little jarring how quickly they would jump from one scene to another. So the 4 stories in our movie have one common thread that is woven between all of them, and that's intolerance. But to be honest, I felt like towards the end, they weren't using that word the way that they were supposed to. It just seemed like they were trying to milk that idea of intolerance. So the year before this film, in 1915, D.W. Griffith released a movie called The Birth of a Nation, which a lot of people criticized and said that he was perpetuating racial stereotypes and glorifying certain hate groups, which he says he was not doing, but that intolerance was a response to the people that he felt were intolerant of him in condemning the birth of a nation. So I don't know if that went over the way that he had hoped it would, but hey, what are you gonna do? That's what he did. And now, my review. This is a movie that you really have to pay attention to. Not only is it a silent film, so you have to be paying attention to the title cards that pop up and tell you the narrative of some things that are happening. There are 4 stories going on. So you could look away from the screen for 10 seconds, turn back, and you've gone from 1916 to 539 BC in the blink of an eye, and if you're not paying attention, you are lost. So if you're going to attempt to watch this movie, put your cell phones in the other room. You don't want to be distracted. No running to the kitchen and trying to hear what they're saying, because you can't hear them. It's just music. You've really got to have your eyes planted to this movie for every minute that you are watching. About a half hour into the movie, I was really questioning the director's way of telling the story of jumping back and forth. I felt it was a little hard to connect with the characters because as soon as you're starting to see what's happening, you jump to another story. I was really amazed by the sets and the wardrobe. They did amazing, especially for it being 104 years ago. That's crazy, crazy, crazy. As the movie went on, I could feel myself being more into the story. I've gotten a chance to feel for the characters and connect with them and see who I'm rooting for lack of a better phrase. With that being said, though, they don't all end in the happiest of ways. One of the stories is about the St. Bartholomew Massacre. So right off the bat, you know that's not going to have a happy ending. The modern day story of crime and redemption has a happy ending, but the entire point getting to that was terrible, bad luck for who they call the boy in the story. I was happy that at the end he was okay and it looked like things were going to get better, but not a good path to get there. One story about Jesus, we kind of, spoiler alert, know what happens at the end of that story. Again, not really the best ending for our hero there if you're rooting for him. So, spoilers, we know what happens at the end of that story. So we went over the massacre story, the Jesus story, and the modern story. The last one is the one that really caught my eye or afterwards caught my interest. It is the fall of the Babylonian Empire. And this one has an alternative ending where the lady that we've been following, the mountain girl, doesn't make it in one story, doesn't survive in the one story, but in the other, she survives and she re-meets up with her love interest. And I'm dying to know the story behind that. What made them what made them film the massacre and then go, oh, you know what, we need a happy ending to kind of balance it out. Or maybe that's what it was. They wanted to have good and bad in the story. So overall, I'm very happy that I watched this movie. I can't wait to scratch it off on the poster. But being a 2.5, almost 3 hour long silent film means I probably won't be watching this again anytime soon. So if you're interested in checking this out for yourself, I believe it's on Amazon Prime. You can just look up Intolerance from 1916 and it'll pop up. So now, what we're all here for, the super cool part, we get to scratch off the poster. Let's get at it. Hopefully I'll have a frame for this later on this week so that I don't have to keep doing this every time I want to look at it. I never get 3 cherries. Damn. So we are finished with our first movie off our 100 Essential Movies list with Intolerance. We are going to watch the 1926 movie The General with Buster Keaton. I'm really excited about. So you guys have a week to watch The General and come back and join me for that. I want to thank you guys for watching, commenting, and everything below. And special huge shout out to my Patreon followers who we are going to see in just a second. Until then, see you next Tuesday.